minus 40 seconds. T minus 30 seconds. T minus 20 seconds. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Own it, own it, own it, Kong. I own it. It did.
Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet.
Gotta love that intro. That's our new intro for the rest of the year. Gotta love it. Well, welcome to the NXT and NXT UK Aftershow on Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. As usual, I'm your girl, Stephanie Hardy, host and creator of the Hardy Wrestling Podcast, as well as the voice of the Belladonna division. But per usual, I am not alone. I am with my awesome co-host, who's just a backstage interviewer and also just a host of In Cat We Trust and just in a whole lot of different things. But on top of that, she's also a freaking amazing mom. She is Katrina Blake. How are you?
That was such a nice intro. Thank you. Got me all in my feels. I am good. Thank you for, again, that was an amazing intro. But I am well.
Well, yeah, you deserve it because, of course, you know, this weekend was Mother's Day. So, you know, you deserve more flowers and all the above. And I know you probably go through a lot and, you know, deal with a whole lot of stuff, but you handle it with grace as well as handling your wrestling career with grace. So I just wanted to give you your flowers before we start. And of course, if you want to interact in the comments, if you're watching along with us, thank you for joining us. If you want to join in the comments and talk about anything from NXT and NXT UK that you enjoyed, please let us know. Please let us know. Don't be afraid, and you might pop up on the screen. It's awesome. So this NXT episode, this NXT 2.0 episode this past Tuesday was so cool because I feel it was really refreshing for me because of the fact that it was a show that seemed like it was just all about the women. And even though they had, of course, their men's roster, you know, showing up and doing, you know, a number of vignettes and promos and a little bit of fighting going on, the show was mostly anchored by the women. And I thought that was one of the most refreshing things I had ever seen in such a long time. So as a whole, the episode was amazing. Like, I really enjoyed it. So how did you feel overall about the episode of NXT?
I'm gonna have to agree. Again, I do think a lot of promotions don't always focus on the women as much as they should. And so it's really nice for the last 2 weeks. They've really, and not to say they haven't before, but it seems like they've been very focused on the women. And I appreciate that. And so I was glad that they did that.
Yeah, me too. And then it was also wonderful, you know, for them to do that because their NXT women's division is so stacked, not even just of newer people, but just a lot of mainstays that we've gotten used to since the rebrand has started. And of course, main roster women like Natalya who've come up, who I've now deemed Natty 2 brands at this point. She's just been popping up and doing things. And then we're going to talk more about her and what she did even in the main event of the show. So it was just really beautiful to see this show grounded by mostly women. Now, the show started, of course, with an NXT women's tag team title match between Toxic Attraction, that's Gigi Dolan and JC Jane, versus the team of Wendy Chu and Roxanne Perez. And The thing that I loved about this match, well, there's Mandy Rose after she tried to interfere in it, of course. The thing that I loved about this match was the fact that Roxanne just seems to be making such a big splash for someone who started in NXT so very early, right?
Yeah.
And she was just really taking it to these ladies, locking arms and just doing all kinds of high flying maneuvers and everything on Gigi and JC. And Wendy Chu was also giving them the business as well, as you saw in that first picture. Like, these women were off the chain and it was really good. But the thing that I hated the most, though, was the fact that they couldn't really even the odds in terms of, having a third woman.
Yeah.
And Mandy was just out there just trying to, distract them by any means necessary. And sadly, as they were distracting them, Toxic Attraction was able to hit their finisher, and they covered Roxanne for the win. So now they've still retained their titles. They're still the women's tag team champions. But then after that, they got rid of Roxanne and threw her out of the ring and proceeded to gang up on Wendy Chu in order to give her more punishment for how she humiliated Mandy at the tanning salon and basically sold their shoes at the beach last week in the spring breaking episode. So, and this was them standing tall here after they jumped Wendy Chu. So that whole exchange was just, retaliation for everything that happened last week. So what did you think about the match and the brawl afterward, Katrina?
I thought it was a really good opening match. I've been a fan of when she was wrestling, Roxy before she joined WWE. And so I think for somebody as young as she is, she's a phenomenal wrestler. And I'm like excited to see, I'm hoping WWE does well with her as far as going, if she moves up from NXT 2.0 and she goes into the main roster or what they may do, I'm hoping they keep what I know her for outside of WWE. And so it was nice to see that she definitely did get a bit of a pop, which was good because, sometimes the 2.0 episode is like, not episode, but rather the audience. Sometimes you kind of like, sometimes they really can't really tell where they are as far as how they feel about a wrestler, or sometimes they 1 week they love somebody and then the next week you're like, wait a minute, did you guys love them last week? And it's such a like change. And so far so good. But I really did like the match. I was a little annoyed with Mandy trying to interfere, and I was even more sad that Wendy took the beating. I was a little hurt. I was like, not Wendy. I love Wendy. I think she's like I love the gimmick. I really do. And so I was sad, but it was definitely a nice opening to NXT.
Yes, it was. And of course, everyone's popping off in the comments. We have Joseph, one of our faithful viewers. Thank you for joining us. It says it showed that they could do an evolution show if they wanted to. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Nice treat that the NXT Women's Tag Team Championships were on the line. It shows how much they see in Roxanne. And she's also in the Breakout tournament. Yeah. We're going to get to that. But thank you, Joseph, for pointing that out. And then we also have Nikki, our senior writer, saying hello. Hey, Nikki. Hey, girl. And we also have Santana. Hey, San. So yeah, like this match was really good. It was a really great start to it. Yes. Team Salt Shakers in the building. Love you guys.
Love women wrestling talk.
Yes. Love you guys so much. But yeah, that was a great start to it. And I do hate that Mandy did interfere because I really felt like Wendy Chu and Roxanne had a really good chance at it. But that's not to say that they won't have another chance, later on down the road, because I do believe Wendy Chu might actually continue to still mess with them even after even after this. So it's okay. But switching gears into another promo. You had a promo from Joe Gacy, who came out after, of course, losing his NXT title match with Braun Breaker. And he came out with his dark figures that he came out with last week, who abducted him and kidnapped him and actually left him in a ditch somewhere. It was really dark and scary when they showed that. I was like, so y'all just threw him out in the highway? God dang. But he was just out here talking about, how he wants to shape NXT in his image. And it was just really creepy. It was really giving like Bray Wyatt vibes, and I hate to say that, but that's just really what it kind of reminds me of. Not as a disservice to him, because of course he's having his own spin on it and everything, being kind of like this cult leader, um, acceptance guidance counselor ish. I don't know, but either way, it's still, you know, cool to see him sort of lean further into his really dark powers, and also sort of seeing that he has other followers in the absence of Harlan. So what did you think of this promo, Kat?
I thought it was really good. I also knew of Joe Gacy outside of WWE, and so when he signed with WWE, I was like, all right, like you can really do something with him. I was a bit questionable with this gimmick at first because I really wasn't sure where it was going, and especially since they had Parker or Harlan when he was in WWE, and they got rid of him, and so you're like, okay,
Right.
you had like the first guy that was supposed to be part of this like cult and like kind of the muscle, you know, like. You think of like all the cult leaders in history. You got like there's the guy who talks, but they got the guards. You know, the person that kind of need to regulate. And so I wasn't sure where they was gonna go with it, but I thought he handled the absence well. NXT seems to be a lot with like you got people getting beat up, people getting kidnapped, people getting thrown in the high. I'm like, so y'all just all about the like underhanded life, where like, you know, if you're thinking about crime happening, like underhanded crime in the underworld, this is what's going on. It's a lot of that happening. I've been noticing a lot of that, but it worked. It worked well for what they were doing, so I really enjoyed it. It definitely. I'm like, oh, y'all doing all this week? Okay, we can all edit this week with this type of stuff happening. But it was an enjoyable segment.
Yeah, it was. And it's so funny you brought up the crime stuff and everything. It's like you had the ongoing saga of Tony D'Angelo sort of taking his place as the Don, the self-proclaimed Don of NXT against Legado del Fantasma. And their war kind of just escalated, you know, into further and higher heights. But sadly, I wasn't able to find any pictures of that moment. But it was a fight. One of the members of Legado del Fantasma got attacked as they were trying to get into their beautiful SUV, which might be a Cadillac, might be a Chevrolet. Either way, it's cute. And they just have a war going on. And it's like every segment they have, it just reminds me so much of Power. And it's just really fun that they're sort of playing into that sort of dramatic thing. And even as Tony and Santos were on the phone, they were even cursing each other out. And I was just like, these are not the words that y'all use on NXT like this. Using the F word? Wait a minute. They were really leaning into the Power thing. And I just thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
But to go further in, we had another segment where they introduced all of the participants in the NXT, the first ever NXT Women's Breakout tournament. You had a lot of familiar faces that we've grown acquainted with over the past couple of months, and then a few new faces. Of course, you see Nikita Lyons in the back, and then you see Roxanne Perez, Lash Legend, who is also on two brands at this point, but we'll get to that later. And then you have Fallon Henley, and a number of other women, and Sloane. What's her last name? Sloane Stevens? I can't remember. But all of these women are participating in this tournament, and so they had the first round on this Tuesday night. And it started off with a really good match between Sloane and Fallon Henley, who was out there sort of playing up her gimmick of a country girl who's an equestrian and everything. And this match was pretty good. And they did note that Sloane is really young. She's like 19 years old, I believe they said. Yeah. And a lot of these women, something that I found really impressive is that a lot of these women are really in their early 20s to like mid 20s. And I was just like, these women are just so young, but they started off really knowing what it is that they wanted. And here they are in this tournament. And Fallon also had the aid and the cheering of her team. That's Brooks Jensen and Josh Briggs. And they cheered her on to a victory, and she went on to win. So she was the first to qualify further in the tournament. So what did you think of this match, Kat?
Well, I enjoyed it. I'm familiar with Sloane from the indie scene, as she wrestled a lot in New Jersey, and so Mimi. So when I saw that she signed with WWE, I was actually really happy for her because she's been doing like killing it, and to be so young also, she's been killing it. And so obviously WWE saw something like, okay, we're gonna sign you. And so why I understand the changing of the names, I guess for trademark purposes, and I totally understand that. It was nice to kind of see, I guess, that level from her to be in a tournament right away. And I'm guessing I'm taking it as they're trusting that these women are going to bring the A game. And so I appreciated seeing the match. It was a good match. I honestly didn't think Slow would win, even though I'm familiar with her. I did think the winner, I believe it was going to be Fallon. I did. She came off more like intense in the match, but it was a really good match. I really did enjoy it. And it was if you didn't know who they were before this, I feel like this was a good intro to anybody who didn't really know their work, beforehand.
Yeah, definitely. Because I wasn't as familiar with Sloane Jacobs. Thank you to Nikki in the comments for letting me know what her last name is, reminding me. Thank you. Sloane Jacobs. I had never really seen her before, but I was just I really was impressed with the athleticism that she showed and the spunk that she showed. And just the fact that she's, really young and 19 years old. Like, she could be my little sister and she's in there, doing that. So big ups to her, but Fallon Henley came out the victor, so she's going further in the tournament. Then on top of that, we had more of a tournament, but we'll talk about that later. We had the re-debut, or basically you could say repackaging, of Alba Fire, and she was fighting the returning Amari Miller, who was suffering from an injury for the last couple of months, but then she came back and it was an injury that she suffered at the hands of Lash Legend, who is also in the women's breakout tournament. So she was able to fight Alba Fire. And something that I loved about Alba's entrance now is like she just looks more grittier, and like she's really like ready to just start tapping in more into her more vicious side. Yeah. And I just loved everything about it, because a lot of fans, online, are never really into whenever a wrestler has to sort of change their name and change everything they're about or whatever, because they're like, no, I was comfortable with this name and now it's being changed to this name. But it looks like this is really serving Alba in a good way. And just watching her in her promos and her vignettes and everything with the bat on fire, I was just like, I like this. This is intense and I like it. But she was able to show like more aggression than she's shown like in a while since she's been on NXT. I won't say since she hasn't been on NXT UK, because of course on NXT UK they have a different style in the UK of fighting. And she was the longest reigning NXT UK women's champion. So this match was pretty good, and it was great to see how she even ended the match, because she ended it with like a moonsault that reminded me of Lita like so much. And I was just like, girl, okay. And she wound up beating Amari Miller. So she came out victorious in her re-debut, and that was lit. So what did you think about it?
That was another good match. It was nice to see Amari because she was gone for some time. And so it was nice to see her. But I really did like the repackage of Alba. I thought it was nice to kind of see where they can go with this. And I was also surprised I didn't really see much people complaining. I'm like, about time, because you guys are always like complaining about something. And so like, I understand like when you're used to something and I get that, but it's like sometimes you're like, they can't control that. And again, business is business. So if you want a person to make the money and they are WWE, you got to make the money. It makes sense to kind of like, if we can change the names, we don't have to worry about asking you for your real name. And so I understand it, but I do like the new look. I do like the repackaging of it. I feel like that they can really do a lot with her if they keep it up. Like they keep up what we saw with her re-debut. I think she'll go really far, maybe even move up to like SmackDown or Raw if it's done. Even though I don't want everybody necessarily to move up. Sometimes, you gotta don't mess up somebody when they're doing well in one brand, because then they get to the next brand, you're like, what is this?
Yes.
But I like where they're going with it so far. I think the match was good. And I can't wait to see like as far as like what they do next with this new version of her.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it either. But she did come out the victor in this match. And I'm also I want more for Amari Miller, even though I know she is just starting in NXT. But I just feel like every time we see her, she's always getting beat up by somebody. And I want to see more of what she has to offer as a starter. So, yeah, I want to see more from Amari Miller. And I guess that's all I'll say about that.
No, I agree. She's a Black woman. I like to see us do well in wrestling, and so hopefully next time she's not taking a loss. But like in regards, like I said, Albert, I liked it, but it's also like the unfortunate somebody had to lose that match, and so it's like one of those type of situations.
Yep, somebody's got to win and somebody's got to lose. Yeah, that's a song. I'm not gonna sing it. But moving on to another segment I thought was pretty cool. You had Solo Sikoa, who was basically, lobbying for himself to have another opportunity at the NXT North American title, which is currently held by Cameron Grimes, to the moon. And Cameron had his respect and Solo has his respect. So they were basically coming to an agreement of saying, that if he wanted to face him, then that would be okay. But then somehow or another, this was also interrupted because Solo did lock Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams out, but they got in and broke in, and then they proceeded to interrupt that whole segment, and they all got to fighting in the ring. Cameron Grimes, his head got put in between a chair and he got injured in that way. So it was just a lot of crazy stuff going on. And I really I love how this feud for the NXT North American title, which isn't even the main title on the show, is just so hot. And I really feel like this is the way that a mid-card, if you want to call it that, a mid-card or B title should be pushed. And with all of these men in the match, it's just like, with this rivalry, you can never go wrong with these three. You're going to get something special. So I really appreciated it, and I'm glad that more will be done with all three because it's great, and I'm just really happy. And of course, Santana in the comments said, Mello don't miss. Yes, Lord. He doesn't, and he is gorgeous, and I understand. So what did you think of it, Katrina?
I did think it was a good segment. I knew Carmelo was gonna. I just knew it. And so when he like popped up and I was like looking flashy and fresh, okay, and
Gucci, right?
Yeah, I was like, okay, I knew he would pop up. I thought it was a good segment. I do like that they making it feel like it's important, and I feel like that's sometimes again a promotion can lose sight of the title that's not the main title, and then you don't kind of know where the title sits in. And so I do like everything they're doing. Is a lot of moving pieces, and they're very different from each other, very different like characters for this title that you can kind of go any way with it. And so I really enjoyed it. I'm hoping that they do it well and don't have me like sometimes WWE like to do, and you're like seeing like ready and hype for something and then they kind of fall a little short. And so I hope that but I like it. I like the moving pieces. I like that they're so different from each other, but then they also still work well with each other even though they're all like feuding. And so it was good.
Yeah, and honestly, even though I did say that I would like to see Carmelo go for the NXT title at some point, even I really thought that after he lost his the last title, the last match for the North American title, that he would go straight for the top one. But it seems like they're sort of keeping him here, and it's not a problem. But at the same time, now I'm sort of getting more sold on Solo Sikoa as a star, because we're seeing more of his personality come out and everything. And he's standing out, and separate, of course, a separate but still interwoven in the whole Samoan family dynasty of the Anoa'is. But at the same time, he's standing on his own 2 feet. And I do appreciate that. So I wouldn't be mad if he actually went on to become champion after Cameron Grimes. But, we just have to wait and see. But Santana is mentioning something. She's saying that in the comments, I think this feud will go to In Your House. Definitely. Joseph is saying it's like, this is when they confirmed In Your House, but no date. But he also went on to say that PWI Insider reported that June 4th, the Saturday, but they haven't officially said it. So Yeah, if this does go to In Your House, I believe it will probably be one of the standout matches,
Yeah.
and I'm excited,
Yeah,
very excited for it.
I'm excited too. I feel like it could be very well be one of the matches that kind of steal the night.
Yes, definitely. Also, basically into this whole other women's thing, you had a mixed tag team match which got set up. Actually the first part that they showed was Tiffany Stratton, of course, taking Grayson Waller shopping in order to take his mind off of losing his match um against Andre Chase. And
Yeah.
so they were so he was angry about it, so she was trying to cheer him up by going shopping. So they were both, kind of coming to an agreement of something, of sorts, saying how much better they are than everyone and how, they've got all this money or whatever. But in the backstage, you saw Andre Chase and one of his pupils, talking about, what's going to happen, when they face each other again. But then you have Saray popping up backstage and asking, if their match can be a mixed tag team match so she can get her hands on Tiffany Stratton, who she has been feuding with over the past couple of weeks. And honestly, I was glad that Andre Chase let this happen because I got sick of watching Saray lose to Tiffany. Like, I just got so sick of it. And it's like, as much as I'm impressed with Tiffany and her athleticism and her character, which is, basically like a mean girl, but just a daddy's little rich girl, which kind of harkens back to the days of teen movies in the 90s and the 2000s and stuff. It's just like, I want Saray to win.
Yeah.
I just want Saray to win and finally beat her and let her know, who's boss up in here. So it was a mixed tag team match, and this match was absolutely stellar. And something that I really loved was the fact that when Saray transformed from wearing her little suit like uniform, schoolgirl uniform outfit with a necklace on, she transformed, and then the other guys of Chase University, Andre and his student, transformed as well, and they were wearing blue Chase U sweaters as opposed to the red ones. And I was just like, oh, that's so cute. I love it. I love it so much. And in this match, they were really giving it to each other. Like, you had Saray, of course, using her submission knowledge up against Tiffany. You had Tiffany jumping on and fighting the men and even doing a dive outside of the ring. And it was just really cool stuff. And then, of course, you had Grayson Waller being Grayson Waller, as arrogant as he knows how to be. But then there was this other impressive spot where Saray actually gave Grayson Waller a drop kick, through the ropes. Yeah. And it was just really cool. They were really giving equal opportunity hands. It was great. I love this match. So as this match went on, of course, it was really, really good. And Chase Uke and Saray came out the victors. And they've basically embraced each other. And it was just really good to see Saray finally get one up on Tiffany Stratton. So it was just really cool. I love this match. So what did you think of it, Katrina?
So I'm gonna have to agree with your regards to Tiffany and Saray. So I like Saray. I like her character. I think she's a phenomenal wrestler, and I was kind of annoyed that they kept having her lose. And I'm like, all right, can we get one? And so while Tiffany, there was, again, I thought it was good back and forth between both of them as far as how they played off in the ring. But I loved the way like Saray and Chase, how they were like kind of in tune with each other, even with moves that move through the ropes. Absolutely like perfection. I was like, yes, like I feel like if y'all didn't like her then, this should have sealed it for you, like of how good she is when it comes to like her wrestling. Like she has her gimmick, but her wrestling is also like really, really great. And so it was nice to see. I am also about, if we're going to do equal opportunity, I'm a quick person to feel like we go the same for everybody. I am definitely an equal opportunity kind of person. And so I love to see that they made it like a legit, how back in the day we might have mixed tags and you might not have always got the women involved too much, or it was a little bit. And so it's nice to just see the history and like development of how they're doing things now with regards to allowing the women to get it in there if they need to really quick. And it's not like over the top, but it looks well. It was a really, really good match. I really, really enjoyed it. And I'm so glad that Saray and, Chase got it. And then it made it great that the supporters, was like so on it, like legit on it, like how you would be at like a sporting event, like a football game or something. And they were really,
Yes.
so it made that so much more better because it's like they had their little cheering section, and so it worked well with the whole thing. But I really did love the match, and I'm just glad Saray finally got that win because I was like, all right, y'all, like, come on, give me one, give me a win.
Yes, I was so glad that happened. And of course, with her and then with Wendy too, you have the representation that is absolutely key during Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. And also in the case of Solo Sikoa as well. So we want to send them respect and love, for doing what they do best, especially during this month, which is so special to them. It was absolutely great. The match was absolutely wonderful. Loved it. It was a delight. So yeah, then we had another women's knockout tournament match because it's all women everywhere. I'm so excited. You had Nikita Lyons, Miss Ma'am with the Yams is what I call her on my show. Going up against Santino Marella's daughter. Do you remember her? The name that they gave her on the show, because I'm blanking on names today.
Ariana Grace.
Yes, Ariana Grace. Yes, that is her name. Ariana Grace. Like Ariana Grande, but not Grande. But yeah, like this match was killer. Like, of course, with Nikita in the match and with her garnering a level of popularity that she has since she's debuted on NXT, you sort of kind of felt, even though a lot of people may not have known, the origin of Ariana Grace, a lot of people may have gone into this thinking, oh, well, Nikita is just going to get an easy win here. No, ma'am. No, sir. No person. That's not what happened. In this match, Miss Ariana really showed that she matched up with Nikita in terms of their MMA backgrounds and the kickboxing and everything. Like, she was matching up with her in such an intense way that I was just floored. I was just like, okay, girl, I see you. And I see your growth, and I acknowledge it, and I appreciate this. Like, it was a couple times where I didn't think Nikita was really gonna win, because Nikita's kind of in this happy space, where if she wanted, it would be great. If she wanted a tournament, it would be great, but if she didn't, it wouldn't necessarily hurt her either. So if Ariana did, pull what they would have called an upset, on commentary, because they were talking about that, that would have been amazing. Like, I really enjoyed it, and I wish it was a little bit longer, but outside of that, it was still really good. But in the midst of it, Nikita was still able to knock her out and then hit her finishing move, which is the split that everyone tends to love a lot, especially on the men's side of things. Nikita came out the victor. She won, but then she was also holding on to her arm and her shoulder a little bit because Ariana wasn't playing. She wasn't playing at all. But Nikita got a hard fought victory here. So what did you think of their performances in this match, Kat?
So I was hoping that Nikita, and again, I get that she's like the popular one right now. And so you can kind of see they're pushing, like they're really pushing her. But I was hoping Ariana got that win. And I don't know if it's a bit me being a bit biased because, Women's Wrestling Talk, me and TK was able to interview her last year. And she was talking about, training and getting better. And so I might have been a little bit biased because she was really sweet during that interview. And I was like, I really want her to win this. Like, I get everybody loves Nikita and that's fine. Love her. But also, I would be perfectly fine if Ariana got this win. And we can kind of like, because I don't think Nikita needs to win the tournament. I feel like they're pushing her enough that it wouldn't really hurt her. And I believe it probably will be her and Lash Legend at the end, which kind of like, I get it, but it also kind of defeats the purpose of the tournament to me. Cause you want to like, we kind of see them already, so we don't necessarily need them to win the tournament, but I was really hoping that Ariana was going to win, but she did well. I'm glad it wasn't like a squash match, because I would have been kind of like agitated if they would have had Nikita like just beat her up real quick and then on to the next.
Yes.
I'm glad that they made them like there was some work involved and then she got it. I did notice the holding the arm also, and I'm hoping it's not like, don't want to ever wish injury or anybody. So hopefully it was just like off the fact that maybe it's just like the kayfabe injury, like, you know, off the fact that she was working her arm in the match and not that she's actually injured.
Yes, and it looks like Joseph he actually mentioned this earlier, but I just wanted to highlight it now since we're on the match. Joseph said Ariana looked great. I thought Nikita was going to win. The only person I could see busting the brackets is Roxanne Perez. Otherwise, it's Nikita and Lash in the finals. And I can definitely see that, because the last time those two fought was in that tag team match where Nikita was tagged with Cora Jade, and then Lash was tagged with Natalya. And that's really the last time they fought each other. And Nikita and Cora came out with the win. But at the same time, you know, it would be nice if in the finals they were able to have that last go round for each other. But I do also see the possibility of Roxanne going really far in it too. So yeah, it was just lots of great stuff going on in that match. But Nikita Lyons went farther, and I believe her and Fallon Henley are going to be fighting each other next in the tournament. So that's where we are now in terms of the women's knockout tournament. But it was a really strong start to this tournament. I just wish it was longer, but you know, I'm greedy. I'm greedy, Kat. I'm just greedy. I just want.
I mean, we have to get all the women's wrestling we can. Because, you know, we do well, and then we go like 5 steps, and you're like, you guys were there, we were there, and you guys just regressed. And so it's okay to be greedy in this regard. I feel like, you know, we're gonna get all that women's wrestling we can get.
Yeah, and also in the midst of that, of this NXT episode, you had Diamond Mine sort of going through their troubles, of course, from last week. The Creed brothers were still feeling some type of way about Roderick Strong sort of intervening on their behalf in their match against the Viking Raiders. And something that was really interesting was the fact that they were talking about, you know, Roderick was just trying to get them, you know, on his side and everything, and try to tell them, you know, I'm just doing this because, you know, I believe in you guys. I always believe in you guys and all of this. But then in the midst of that, and also saying that they were supposed to work as a team, he brought in a new member without even talking to them. And it was Damon Gray, I believe that's his name. From NXT UK, who's also from the United States, who graduated from the University of Minnesota, who likes to crank out wrestling stars like Brock Lesnar and like Gable Steveson, who won the Olympic gold medal last year. He made his way to NXT, and now he's apparently a part of Diamond Mine too. And the Creed brothers didn't like that form of decision making either. So Roderick just doesn't seem to be making the Creed brothers feel welcome or like they're a part of a group or to even have a say in it. And that was just kind of stressful for me, because I'm just like, oh my God, this is terrible. This is terrible. This is not how it's supposed to be. This is supposed to be a collaborative effort, and it's not. But outside of that, and then outside of the Viking Raiders, you know, giving a response to a possible rematch with the Creed brothers and everything, that was basically all. Of course, leading into our main event, which here again was female led, because it's awesome. It was Cora Jade, the young upstart who loves to skate, versus the bar of the women's division of all of WWE's women's wrestling, Natalya. Lord have mercy, Natty Two Brands. And Natty was really testing Cora here in this match. I really feel, in my opinion, that this match with Cora could probably be listed as one of Cora's best matches in NXT so far since she's been on here. She showed that she was game so much, and I was so proud of her. Like, even with this picture here with this submission, and even locking in Natty's sharpshooter too. Like, I was like, girl, Cora was really bringing it to Natty, but then Natty was also, you know, being more aggressive and trying to submit her in various ways, and all the regular everything that you would come to expect from Natalya, you got in this match, and even a little bit more because, of course, you know, the main roster is a bit different, but still, this match was fire. And even as there were a couple of points where Natalya even tried to lock her into the sharpshooter and even tried to submit her on the ring post, Cora still wouldn't give up, and she kept fighting and kept fighting back. And then even after a couple of, you know, near falls and Natalya locked her up in the sharpshooter, Cora kept crawling for the bottom rope, but then Natalya kept pulling her away and kept pulling her away. But then she wound up, Cora didn't even tap out. She wound up passing out. And mind you, that was a little bit confusing for me because I had never seen anyone pass out from that move before. But she passed out and she didn't give up. She was trying to talk herself through, talk to the referee through while being in it and everything. Yeah. But she passed out, and Natalya wound up winning the match due to that. And Cora was looking a little bit defeated, but something that I really enjoyed with this match was the fact that Natty kept looking at her and kept asking, "Did you tap out? Did you tap out?" It was almost like a mom talking to her child, like, "Did you do what you're supposed to do? Did you?"
Yeah.
You know, and Cora looked at her and said, "No, I didn't tap out." And she told her like that twice. And after she told her, "No, I didn't give up," Natty showed Cora respect, and she pulled her up and gave her a hug, and they raised their hands together. And that was such a beautiful way to end NXT right there, like a show of respect between these two ladies. Because it's like Cora Jade mentioned, like Natty was her first favorite wrestler. And I could imagine, you know, I could only imagine how it feels to be in the ring, you know, with someone that you've admired for so very long. And now you're in the ring with her, and then you gain her respect, because you didn't give up on her, or at least she didn't give up on herself in that match.
Yeah.
So it was a stellar way to end NXT, and it was such a great main event, and it was great. I can't say enough good things about it. So what did you think about it, Katrina?
First I want to say Natty has earned so much respect for me over the last few years, like from before, but just the fact that she's somebody very reliable. And so when you need somebody to kind of step in and do something, Natty's always the person they go to. And so I respect that they trust her to do that. And so to have, you know, her work with somebody like Cora, who's like really new in far as WWE, to come in and do that with her, and then have the whole like, "Oh, you're a fan, I'm like your idol in a way, and you know, I gotta kind of let you know that, yeah, we can be," you know, that whole saying, like, sometimes you can't meet your idols because they aren't who you think they are. And so that the play off that, and for it to be, I was also confused with her passing out, just because I don't feel like that's something that necessarily warrants a passing out type of situation. But I guess that it was a way that I guess show that Natty did what she was supposed to do in regards to kind of keeping Cora grounded. I want to say grounded a bit, and that Natty still doesn't look like, she looks strong, but then also to have Cora, like, you know, she's tough. She's like somebody who's gonna be gritty and kind of hang in there if necessary. And so that was nice. I just really didn't understand the ending in regards to her passing out, especially because at the end of that, they did end up holding hands and like raising the hands together. And it was like, so did we really need to make her like pass out in that way? Could you have done it maybe a different way to kind of pull off, you know, that ending? But it was a good match. I thought again, Natty really showed why WWE used her in these situations. And it was also a nice way to see that, you know, even though Cora's young with regards to being in WWE, and knew that, you know, you can probably get some stuff out of her. You guys just like, she got to go against Natty. You know, Natty's like one of the pillars of the locker room right now. So I thought it was a nice for both of them. And so I'm interested. I don't know what they're going to go after this, because I feel like that should have been the end of it, with the whole sign of respect. That's usually the end when it's matches like that. But then again, we can't always be sure with WWE. But it was a nice way to end the episode. And again, yes, with a woman main event.
Yes, and it's just wonderful, you know, to wake up, you know, in in the day and age that we're in, and women are in the main event, and it's normal.
Yeah.
So it was really great, and I love this episode. You know, in spite of what certain reports are saying, this episode was really great. And yeah, I just loved how the women were basically, you know, holding, you know, up this episode. And hopefully on NXT and also in other shows they'll do more stuff like this where women are either the focal points or even just the only competitors, because it's refreshing and it's empowering. And I hope that they do it a whole lot more in the coming weeks, months, years, you know, tomorrow, in the next hour. I don't know. But that ends the episode of NXT, but which was a really great episode.
Yes.
But now we're gonna go into NXT UK. And this episode of NXT UK was really special, and it was so special that I just decided to bring out my NXT women's, wait, is it upside down? Yes, it's upside down. My NXT women's UK title that I got for Christmas. It's so beautiful. And I just had to pull it out because people did love how I had my SmackDown title for the Backlash show with Alicia. So I just decided to, you know, make this one special because it's NXT UK's 200th episode. We want to say congratulations to them for reaching 200 episodes. It's like we said last week. Like, I remember when it started, you know, as just a tournament, and now it's its own brand, underneath a brand, underneath another brand, and underneath another brand. But it's a very solid brand with solid competitors and really cool stuff going on, as we are learning since we're going to cover it here on this show. So they did show a little bit of flashbacks, you know, showing a lot of the people who came through NXT UK and won, you know, titles such as the tag team of Mustache Mountain, such as Butch, aka Pete Dunne, and of course Gunther, who was the longest reigning United Kingdom champion, and even showing where they are now with Ilya Dragunov. And showing Rhea Ripley, who won the NXT UK women's title as well, and showing where she is now with black hair and Judgment Day, which is awesome. And just showing, and even showing Dewdrop, who was known as Piper Niven back then, but she was, you know, a staple in NXT UK as well. And it was just great to see sort of the evolution of the show and seeing where, you know, where else it can go. So it was great. I love going back down memory lane with stuff like that. And then they also showed how A-Kid won the Heritage Cup and then how Noam Dar won it as well. I just remember feeling like Noam Dar just kind of disappeared for me after a certain point. And I was like, where is he? Like, I would just randomly think about where he went. And then to watch this show now and see he's there and he's had success there, it's just like, okay, that's really good. So yeah. How did you feel looking at the memory lane stuff that they showed?
It doesn't feel like it's been 200 episodes.
Right.
And so I guess I'm like, oh, that's great that you guys hit 200. 200 is definitely a milestone. And, you know, I love me some Rhea Ripley. And so, I mean, I'm not really with the full in the black hair, but that's more of a personal thing. I love Rhea. And, you know, I was all with the brutality gimmick, even though I knew she'll be with Edge at some point. And so it was nice to kind of see, you know, because she's came like a whole long way, even with appearance, but her gimmick, she's came a long way. And so to see that, and then you see like from episode 1 and all the changes and even some of the wrestlers switching brands, you know, you got like a Dewdrop is where she is now. And so that was nice. It was a nice thing, like, oh, wow, you guys really did get 200. Like, you know, let's get 200 more, you know, let's do 200 more, let's do 300, you know. And so it was really nice to see. And you know, there's a few I really do enjoy in NXT UK, and so it's just like that kind of reaffirming, like, oh, I can't wait to see what these guys do next over here.
Right, definitely. I enjoyed it as well. So NXT UK started with a really, really stellar match here. I feel like I use that word a lot, but the matches on NXT are just of a really high quality. So if I use the word stellar a lot or great a lot, I apologize, but these matches are great though. It started with the tag team of Gallus, who are brothers, going up against, who goodness. I know one, oh my gosh, Ashton and Oliver. That's their first names. The last names are escaping me. Ashton Oliver
Smith and Oliver Carter.
Yes, okay. And I know Oliver Carter was also, representing Ghana with his belt and everything, and then also his tattoo, which is of the entire continent of Africa. And I love that representation, and it's just really cool because like I said, I've actually traveled to Ghana before. In 2014, it was one of the greatest experiences of my life. I have the Ghana flag right behind me. So just to see that type of representation was just really cool. That match was amazing. I feel like with Gallus, you saw a lot of sort of like more of like their technical grittiness
Yeah.
going up against Ashton and Ashton and Oliver's, they had a lot of technical prowess as well, but they also hit you with a lot of high flying stuff too. And
Yeah.
I appreciated that from them. Like I love that. Um so that match was really good. And then of course, Ashton and Oliver both came out the victors in that match, and that which means that they're going on to face two other teams in the tournament in a triple threat match for the NXT UK tag team titles that I believe are being held by Mustache Mountain, I believe they said. So this match was really, really good. So what did you think of it, Kat?
I think it was a nice way to open the show. All four were very athletic. That was something I noticed right away. Like, and I think with the camera angles with some of the moves, it was really nice to kind of see like from that angle, like, okay, they hit this move. I definitely agree that while both were technical, I do believe that Oliver and Ashton had more of a, like, they was able to kind of play a bit more on the high flying side, but it worked really well. I think the four of them worked well together. I feel like this was a really, really good way to open up. And I think they did well like this last week. Same thing, a really nice opening to kind of get you. Again, you only got an hour with usually with NXT UK. And so want to start off strong and get people like invested to keep watching the whole way through. And so they definitely did that with this match.
Yeah, it was really great. Like, if you had never really seen the tag team division work out before, it's like you saw the best of it, on with this match.
Yeah.
So I really loved it, and I'm really looking forward to seeing, Ashton and Oliver sort of go farther, and hopefully they'll win. Hopefully they'll win, the tag titles, but you just never know. Something else interesting that I noticed in the women involving the women, talking about people going back and forth between brands, is Miss Lash Legend just being extra. Because another member of the NXT UK women's roster, I believe her name was Amelia, if I'm not mistaken. They were talking to her about how she felt about Mako Satomura, retaining her NXT UK women's title last week against Isla Dawn, and she was giving her opinion and stuff like that. And then Lash Legend just popped in and just interrupted her, and I'm just like, girl, that's rude. That's rude. I don't care who you are. You're not supposed to interrupt nobody like that. They weren't talking to you. And Amelia didn't take too kindly to that, so she walked up on her and just told her, like, you are, like, they weren't talking to you. Like, you're just, I'm so tired of you, just sort of, imposing yourself, in this. And Lash Legend was like, doing all of her attitude stuff and everything, and saying, like telling her that she basically doesn't see any value in the NXT UK women's division.
Yeah.
And Amelia was just sort of staring at her as she walked away. So I guess it's safe to assume that these two might fight at some point. But I'm low-key rooting, as much as I love Lash Legend because she is a fellow Black woman, she was being rude. You just don't interrupt people like that. That's just rude. And I kind of hope that Amelia is able, or someone in UK is able to sort of teach her a little bit of a lesson in manners and just, knowing you're just not supposed to do that to people. But what do you think about Miss Lash Legend, sort of making her presence felt on NXT and NXT UK?
I mean, I guess with her, the way her gimmick is, she does have the attitude, like, people are kind of beneath me, I'm better. And so it makes, I guess, sense that she would say, like, there's really not much going on in the women's division. I would say, as a person who's not a wrestler, and this is probably why I couldn't be a wrestler, is like, I know if I feel like somebody's being rude, I'm probably going to forget that we're in, like, kayfabe.
Right.
Story, I'm gonna be really like, first of all, none of this. And I know that about myself, that I'm like, this is why I couldn't be a wrestler, because I will forget that this is storyline purposes. And so we want to argue, you want to like argue with me, and we're gonna I would take it as like a way to like you're trying to argue, you're trying to start something. And so I guess in that regard, I definitely understand, like, she was definitely being rude, and Amelia probably should have responded. Maybe, I don't know, I feel like that's what they're heading to. They're gonna probably have Amelia be the one to kind of like maybe teach her a lesson. I feel though, like maybe they'll have less legend with it if that's where they're going, because she's been kind of taking yells with Nikita, that I feel like you can't have her on both brands and then she's losing both feuds, because that would kind of be like what it was the point of having her here, to have her lose, like where she's losing both feuds if they make this into a feud with her with Amir and UK. So, but I mean, it was a good segment. I was a little annoyed, but I feel like that's kind of what her gimmick is supposed to be. But it was a good segment, and I just kind of interested to see what they do next now. Like, if they're gonna really make like, is she really gonna work both brands, or is she just kind of there to have like the talking segments?
Yeah, I'm interested in seeing, how that's going to work too. But it's clear that they really do see something in Lash Legend, to where they're having her go to both shows like this, especially so early, as she starts. So I'm interested in seeing what else she does. And hopefully, she'll learn some more manners along the way. Because, I just hate that. I just hate it when people just interrupt or be like, bro, like, that's not nice. You don't do that. Stop. But either way, after this, we had another women's match. Between, you had another debut in the form of another Diamond Mine member, Ivy Nile, going up against Nina Samuels, who seems like she's more of a show-offy type, movie star, type of girl. With her entrance and everything, and Nigel McGuinness was just really bigging her up or whatever and everything on commentary. And then Ivy Nile was just kind of mopping the floor with Miss Nina. This was my first time ever seeing Nina Samuels fight. And it felt like she really didn't get in a whole lot of offense here against Ivy. Ivy was showing off here, like she had Nina locked in between her thighs, as you can see in this picture, and she was doing push-ups while doing it. And I'm just like, so you choking this girl and doing push-ups? What? And then she locked her into a dragon sleeper on the top rope, and then turned it into a DDT, and then twisted it, and then had her still locked into a standing dragon sleeper, and then made Nina Samuels tap out. And Ivy Nile had a successful debut on NXT UK. Now, we don't know if she's going to stay on the show, for a longer period of time, because, of course, she's also been featured on NXT television. But seeing as Diamond Mine is going through a little bit of an evolution with the loss of Malcolm Bivens, in that crop of releases, they're just doing different things to see what works. But Ivy Nile as a solo competitor definitely does work, and she really did bring it here, and she impressed me. So what did you think about it, Katrina?
I'm gonna have to agree with regards to Nina. She didn't get that much offense. I felt like Ivy really like showcased what she could do. I think it's extremely rude to like, I'm gonna beat you up, but let me like do some exercises while I'm beating you up. Like, it's like, it kind of is like saying you're not even worth me trying to end. Like, I could take my time ending this match because you're not even worth me having to try to end it quickly. It's like, because she was kind of toying with her a bit. And so, I mean, I was okay with it. Like, I'm not overly fond all the time of cocky wrestlers, but it worked because it just kind of showcased her as a solo wrestler outside of her team, outside of who she's normally with. And so that was nice. I thought it was a good match, and it definitely, who knows what we can see her doing, but they definitely have her kind of showing off a bit. Like, it's super rude to be like, I'm gonna do this, but let me get these reps real quick while you're between here, and you're not even like relevant right now while I do this. It's like light work in a way. That's the way I feel like they made it seem. Like she was calling her light work. Like, I don't even need to worry. I don't even need to stress this. Like, I got this. I can exercise. I can do some push-ups. It's fine. You're not worth me even taking it seriously. And I thought it was a nice, like, okay, like I can see how we can kind of pull off that. So it was good.
Yeah, and then also speaking of NXT and NXT UK people going back and forth, she was on NXT as well, you know, doing various vignettes where she was doing, you know, exercise challenges with a lot of the trainees who were men, and she was telling them not to ever quit or not to ever stop. And she was outdoing the men in those challenges. Like, she was doing pull-ups with chains around her neck. She was lifting weights and everything. She was like doing those rope exercises or whatever. And she was outdoing the men in these challenges. And I thought that was really cool. That was something else I forgot to mention as we were talking about NXT 2.0. But still, that was another way of which, you know, the women kind of just took over. You saw her, you know, sort of dominate with her physicality. And it was just really cool to see that. And then also to see her on NXT UK's 200th episode and making a successful debut. Like, it seems like the sky's the limit for Ivy Nile at this point. Yeah. So the last match, the main event, was not a women's main event, but it was still a good main event nonetheless. I didn't really see all of it, but it was Ilya Dragunov versus Jordan Devlin, the Irish Ace, for the NXT UK Championship, and loser of this match would have to leave NXT UK forever. So I'm gonna let Kat sort of take the lead here and talk about everything that happened, because she was able to watch it all. Take it away.
So I really did enjoy this match. I'm actually a fan, like a really big fan of I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. I feel like I'm messing that up so bad. But so for a main event and to have it where this is one of those matches where the person has to leave, I feel like those matches always so much on the line that you kind of have to put on a show. I think they did that. And so I think the most interesting aspect for me was the fact that they kind of had to restart the match. So you see, like, it gets really gritty, and then you see that Devlin's supposed to have gotten like the 3 count with like a back body drop, which was a really good one at that. And then he's like celebrating until, you know, Dragon Gates comes out like, no, his foot was on the rope. We kind of have to restart this again. And so for me, when I was like, oh, so I kind of now feel like I know where this is going because they restarted the match. Clearly, Devlin's not gonna, like, he's gonna be the one to leave. I got that from that moment there. And so again, they continue the match where they kind of have to start again. And it didn't go too much longer after that. But once he hit that German suplex and then did like a torpedo on Devlin, I was like, all right, like this is it. And so he wound up retaining after all of that. And so Devlin's gone. And so I thought actually they was going to have Devlin, especially with the promo before, like kind of leading up to the match, of how like this was kind of really serious. Like he really wanted this opportunity to win. And so I thought they was going to really have him win the match until they restarted it. And then I was like, oh, okay, this is what we, okay. So he's not, we're like, I was just, once that happened for me, I was like, oh, he's not going to win this. He's not, no. And so that's what happened, and Devlin left. And so I'm just curious if this, like, if they're going to bring Devlin to NXT, and that's why he's leaving, or is he, like, leaving the company, or is he going to, like, Raw, SmackDown? You know, as people call him, like, Baby Finn. They call him Baby Finn. And so, I mean, I don't think he is, but I've heard that, like, people call him Baby Finn Balor. And so, you know, Finn's on the other show. And so, like, would they put them on the same show? Would they have one-on-one and one on the other? Would they break him just to NXT instead? And so there's the options, or he's just taking a break for a while, you know, because it could also just be like a write-off for him to get like some time to himself, whatever. But it was a really good end to the show. Like, I can't complain that it wasn't a women's match, because they did do a women's match last week to end the show. But it was a really good end to a good show. And kind of just, it's good to, like, I'm liking what I'm seeing. I used to watch in like the UK NXT brand, like, here and there. So like this, actually now watch it like consistently. It's like, okay, all right, okay, yeah. Listen, I really thought that's what they were gonna do, and then they was just like, no, we're not. So we'll see. I guess we'll see what they do with this. But it was a really solid end to the show for me.
Yeah, it sounds like it was a really solid end to it. And it sounded also very dramatic. which is how you got it, which is, you know, how people love wrestling sometimes.
Yeah.
It sounds like it was a very dramatic end, but from the parts I did see of the match, it was really hard hitting, which is something that you could come to expect from these two.
Yes.
And I respect that so much from them. They give so much of their all, and I love it. But Ilya Dragunov is still the NXT UK champion, and Jordan Devlin has to go. You know what's so funny? As you were talking about, you know, where Jordan Devlin could possibly go, tell me why I want to put him on Raw with Judgment Day. Tell me why I want to do that.
I mean, you could. It could work.
Or he could join sort of like the faction that AJ and Finn have, so they can maybe even up that. I don't know. If they put him on Raw. Because they could just put him on SmackDown and then, you know, or have him join up with Gunther and Ludwig. Like, that would be cool.
That is true.
It is just two of them. They could rebuild a new Imperium. That would be cool.
That's true.
Yeah, you just never know. Like, but yeah, I'm glad to hear that it was a really good match. And even though it had that sort of dramatic turn, I'm going to actually go back and watch it because it did intrigue me a whole lot. But, you know, technology happens and everything. So that wraps up us talking about NXT UK's 200th episode and actually NXT as a whole. Thank you guys so much in the comments for popping off and saying things and watching stuff and with us and everything, and talked about what you enjoyed and what you're looking forward to seeing with NXT and NXT UK and stuff like that. And just continue to support our after show, you know, that comes on every Thursday on Twitch at 6 o'clock Central and 7 o'clock Eastern, and every other o'clock everywhere else, because I can only keep up with 2 time zones, guys. I'm only one person. But Katrina, thank you so much for being with me on this show, because of course I love being on the show with you and talking about wrestling with you and everything. So just tell everybody where they can find you and follow you.
Thank you for that. I actually love doing shows with you too. It's always a good time. I'm pretty much everywhere on NCAT We Trust. The E is a 3 on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. But kind of look that up, you'll find me mostly. So everywhere.
All right. And always know that you can follow me, your girl, Stephanie Hardy, on Instagram and Twitter at Queen Steph Hardy, like STEPH, Hardy like the Hardy Boys. And you can follow my podcast, The Hardy Wrestling Podcast, on Instagram at Hardy Wrestling Podcast and on Twitter at Hardy Wrestle Pod. And listen to that show everywhere you get your podcasts. I will be releasing a new episode this weekend because I've taken 2 weeks off because I've been tired. But you know, I'll be putting out my 95th episode this weekend. And also know that you can find Women's Wrestling Talk at WW Talk Pod on Instagram and Twitter, and check out our website at www.talkpod.com, where there's articles and shows and episodes and interviews and merchandise that you can find if you want to rep Women's Wrestling Talk in that way. And also they have really great articles, considering this month, like I mentioned earlier, is Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. We release an article on Instagram and on our website every day this month, so please check it out and learn some things that you may have known or may not have known. We have to learn about each other if we're going to understand each other, so please do that as we post that stuff. And of course, I'll be back tomorrow night for the SmackDown and Rampage after show. My good friend Santana won't be there, but you know, I'll be there, so I'll hold it down as best as I can. So thank you guys for joining us on Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. And until next time, bye y'all.
Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show.